In 1974, Doris Bither, a single mother of 4, moved into a modest, aging house in Culver City, California. From the outside, it seemed like a fresh start, a chance to rebuild her life. But the moment she crossed the threshold, she said, the house didn't want us there. The air was thick. The walls felt like they were watching. Lights flickered for no reason, and cold spots crept through rooms. But this was only the beginning of the nightmare. Just days after moving in, Doris began experiencing an overwhelming sense of dread. She reported hearing whispers in empty rooms and seeing shadows dart across her peripheral vision. One night, as she stood in the kitchen, a force struck her so hard she fell to the ground. No one was there. That was the first physical encounter, a chilling prelude to what would become a living nightmare. It wasn't just Doris who felt the presence. Her children began speaking of strange occurrences too, toys moving on their own, disembodied voices calling their names, and dark figures lingering at the edge of their vision. One of the boys refused to sleep in his room after claiming a man with no face stood over his bed. Whatever was in the house wasn't just after Doris, it had noticed them all. The encounters grew violent. Doris claimed she was attacked by invisible entities, not once, but repeatedly. Bruises appeared across her body, and she described being thrown across the room by unseen hands. She would scream into the night, and her children would find her sobbing, terrified and injured. She spoke of 3 distinct beings, one large, 2 smaller, that surrounded her during these attacks. It was beyond explanation. And no one believed her. During their first investigation, the researchers set up cameras and scientific instruments throughout the house. Almost immediately, strange phenomena began. Balls of light, bright, hovering orbs, flickered into existence, darting through the rooms. Doris was surrounded by these glowing forms, and in one chilling moment, a green mist appeared above her bed. The investigators couldn't explain it, and they caught some of it on film. The team captured dozens of Polaroid photos during their sessions, most were inconclusive. But a few showed bizarre light streaks and arc-shaped anomalies, with no clear source. One photo revealed a human-like figure made entirely of light hovering beside Doris. Another had an eerie face in the corner, staring directly into the lens. These were not camera malfunctions. The images defied logic, and terrified everyone who saw them. As the phenomena intensified, a foul, sulfur-like stench would often fill the air before an encounter. It was a thick, nauseating smell, unnatural and overwhelming. Doris described it as death soaked in acid. Sometimes it would be followed by a sudden drop in temperature, and doors slamming shut on their own. The smell always came first, like a warning that something terrible was about to happen. One night during a recorded investigation, Doris was lying in bed when the energy in the room changed. Cameras were rolling. Without warning, her body arched violently, as if pulled by invisible hands. A green mist swirled above her, and cold air swept through like a wave. Investigators watched helplessly as she screamed and thrashed. The attacks, they realized, weren't just stories. They were unfolding right in front of them. Doris described the entity as a dark, malevolent presence, a twisted, shadowy figure with glowing eyes and sharp, unnatural features. It was relentless, tormenting her every night. The investigators believed it was a parasitic spirit, feeding on her fear and pain. Attempts to communicate only seemed to provoke it further. It wasn't just haunting her home, it was haunting her soul. Even the seasoned investigators weren't immune. Dr. Barry Taff reported feeling cold hands gripping his throat during the investigation. Devices malfunctioned inexplicably, and one camera caught a fleeting glimpse of a shadowy figure moving behind them. The house wasn't just haunted, it was hostile, a living nightmare that fed on fear and desperation. In a final attempt to rid the house of its evil, Doris agreed to a spiritual cleansing. Candles were lit, prayers were spoken, and salt was scattered in every room. For a moment, the house fell silent. But then, a surge of cold wind, every candle snuffed out at once, and a guttural growl echoed through the walls. The cleansing had failed. If anything, it had only enraged the entity further. After the failed cleansing, the house grew more violent. Objects were hurled across rooms, lights shattered, and a putrid wind howled through closed windows. Doris's children were pushed, scratched, and one claimed to see the entity's face inches from his own. No place in the house was safe anymore. It was no longer just haunted, it was possessed. Unable to endure another night, Doris packed up and fled with her children. They left behind furniture, clothing, everything. Just getting out alive became the only priority. After they left, the house fell silent, as if the entity had followed them. Doris reported continued activity, though weaker, in every place they moved. Whatever haunted her wasn't tied to the house. It was tied to her. Doris Bither passed away in 1999, never truly free of what haunted her. The investigators never found a scientific explanation, only disturbing evidence and unanswered questions. The case remains one of the most terrifying and well-documented hauntings in American history. Whatever the entity was, it didn't just haunt a house. It haunted a life. And some believe it still lingers, in the shadows, waiting for fear to feed on. Some stories end when the lights come back on, but not this one. Doris Bither's torment didn't stay behind in that house, it followed her, whispered to her, haunted her until her final breath. What happened to Doris may never be fully explained. But one thing is certain, the horrors we cannot see are often the ones that never leave us. For more real stories that chill the soul, subscribe now to Only True Horror.